Hello and welcome back to part 2 of this Limbo playthrough. Again, this isn't a blind playthrough. This would be probably the third time I've been playing this game. The point of this one is just to stop anytime I think there's anything interesting to talk about in terms of the way the game's designed, anything that promotes the narrative, pretty much anything that captures my attention. So we're going to continue where we left off, which is actually not there. Quite a way into that. So last time we defeated the spider. I say defeated. We survived the spider. And I believe this is where we're carrying on. Yeah, so the end of the very last episode, this hairy bastard got rolled into this pit of spikes and some guys ran away from us here. So we've got another unfortunate soul who we presume was trapped by these natives, let's call them, who don't seem to like outsiders at all. So with the creaking there and the crows, you'll see that survived. I thought I was going to fall all the way down them. Limbo does this really interesting thing with sound design, where it likes to have one thing very clear at a time. It doesn't like to layer sounds. It doesn't sound very realistic, but it really draws attention to whatever it is that they want you to see at that, they want you to hear at that particular time. So I think as we enter this area here, you can see the levels kind of closed in a little bit. Gives a sense that we're moving from one section through to the next. As it opens up, one lot of sounds sort of drifts away and you get this more echoey, watery, cavernous place we've entered into. One thing I think I have a few puzzles coming up, all going to share a very similar theme in what I want to talk about, and that's the way that Limbo sets up the narrative. So we've got these things floating in the water here. We have no idea what they are at the moment because we've not come across them yet. And Limbo's doing something really interesting here, which is not really designed for your first playthrough. It's designed for your second playthrough. You go, I see, understand now. So let's just stand on this body here as this wonderful chord plays to let you know that something important is happening, and this guy runs into the water with a weird white cat and drowns himself. Again, that sound, everything else cuts away for that sound to come in, so you know that that's important. Let's make our way up the hill. See this very, very obvious looking trap here. And this guy. I like the design of the outside as well. They look, I don't know if it's the way the hairs possibly, just much shorter on their heads. But you get a sense that they're much older than Boy, and that adds to the threat they represent. And he threw a rock at me, the bastard. So Limbo is setting up a lot of, there's been a lot of setup for what's about to happen. So we just used the spider as a tool, the spider's body as a tool to get through to this section. And now we've kind of upgraded to using the bodies of fellow humans just as tools to get us on our way. There's a very good sense of finality when the music cuts out then, exactly as this falls. And it's a really good setup for this moment here, because the music first came in when we saw one of these weird glowing worm things in the guy's head. Music came in a very sudden chord, letting us know it was very important. And it's just dropped away now when we come across the next clue as to what's going to be going on. Again, drawing drawing attention to the fact that this thing is key to the next set of puzzles coming up. And this is one of my favourite bits, because this is something that you would not notice on your first playthrough. You see a guy, see the body line there, we've seen a few of these bodies that they just kind of look like they've given up the way they've collapsed in that sort of sitting position. I've seen a few of them so far. And this one has another one of those white things in its head, sitting in a patch of light, and that's not really going to be any... You're not really going to understand the significance of that when you first play through. But we're about to come across it. First of all, we've just got to get through this section here. Now, first time I played this game, I absolutely loved this section because it didn't fool me. Again, this is all about the way that Limbo's been setting up so far. It's been giving you this sense that this is a very hostile environment which is out to kill you. It's very rarely unfair, although I'd say it kind of is and isn't in this case. It's unfair because you've got these two things to get through and you've got to jump on the platform on the first one. But let's see what happens if we jump on the platform this time. So it's there to trick you, which would be arguably unfair. But at the same time, we're a good chunk into the game now. Players should have an idea of what the world is like. It's very rare that Limbo actually sets out to trick you into dying. Most of the time there are clues as to what's going to happen. So we jump on this one and we miss it because we're really bad at manual dexterity. Let's try that again. So we jump onto this one. We don't jump onto this one. And then Limbo does this really clever thing, which makes you backtrack and remember what you've just done while there's this added pressure coming on. And I remember the first time I played this game, I felt really proud of myself for getting through that on the first attempt. And again, this wonderful ambient background noises come in. And again, I'm just really bad at judging how far this guy can jump. I swear I pressed jump that time. I swear. No, that's just... If this happens again, I'm just going to cut it out and pretend that I'm really good at this. Again, having got through that section, you see the level kind of narrows for a second. Then you know that you've moved from one puzzle to the next. Because although the game is continuous, one level all the way through, it does like to divide it up in very subtle ways. Oh, this is terrible. I get the feeling this video is going to be a lot longer than it should be. So once again, we've got one dominant set of sounds. No, I got that. I thought I was going to miss that. One very dominant set of sounds to let the player know what's going on. In this case, we've gone to gears, mechanical sounds. And another thing that Limbo does with its puzzles a lot is it gives you lots of clues in the background in the puzzle design as to the timing of things. So I was looking then for these two things to line up, and I knew that'd be a good time to jump, it felt like it would be right. And Limbo does that a lot with its puzzles. Okay, we've moved on to another outside area, and this is what we've been setting up for since the start of this video, this moment here. So we've had a few clues as to what this thing's going to do, which is take control of your movement. Now, I can control the speed that I'm walking now. I can make myself run, but I can't change the direction. However, these things hate light, as we know from the body we saw lying in a patch of light. And we've seen those weird bird monster things eating one so far, so we know that if we're going to survive this section, they're our way out. What we've got to do is time this just right. So that we can jump up there at the right moment and they'll eat it off our head. And that's something you could work out quite easily first time you come through here. But on a second or third playthrough, you're going to notice all those clues they put in just to not only set up thematically what's going to happen, but just to let you know, to give you some clues as a player, if you've been paying attention. And again, one set of sounds, sort of outside, background, rustling, bird call noises dropped away, and we've got this electrical hum going on. As I said before, it feels very unnatural, the way the sound design works in this film. It's not a film at all. The way sound design works in this game, very unnatural, but at the same time, really good at setting the mood, letting the player know exactly what the tone of each section is going to be like. This section coming up here, probably of all the puzzles, of all the level sections in this game, this is the one that reminds me most of Playdead's next game, Inside. Because Inside does this thing a lot, where it has this weird future, I don't want to say alien, but certainly sci-fi technology that you have to use as the player in order to progress, but you don't really understand what it's doing or what it's for. I know that somehow I made that happen, but I couldn't tell you what the science of it was. I couldn't tell you even a reason for it. Who would have built such a weird contraption? And I really like that. It was something I really liked about Inside, this idea that you never really quite knew what was going on. You were just given these clues and had to sort of build up an idea for yourself. And Limbo in particular, being set in who knows where. I've talked before about my theory as to what this game is. But just a moment like that, I think it really makes you stop and think about what might actually be going on in this world. The camera is slowly lowered then, moving the boy much further down on the screen as we moved into this section, which I think is nice because it opens up the sky a lot and just makes you feel this small and insignificant again, especially with the rain coming down quite heavily now. It just makes you feel very vulnerable. In fact, while we're out in the open here, let's talk about the vignette effect in the edge of the screens. Again, that's there. It's a very subtle way of just adding to the vulnerability of the character, because it's, without really noticing, it's kind of limiting your view, cutting off your peripheral vision. Adds a lot of focus onto what's happening in the centre of the screen. In a sense, kind of like the way that an adrenaline rush would focus you on a particular thing. Describing that very badly. But it gives you this sort of target vision where you're kind of encouraged to focus on the threat at hand and not think about the wider. I do like how loud it gets here. It's quite threatening in itself. The way that the sound even sort of overwhelms what's going on. Yeah, the vignetting, the darkening around the edges of the screen kind of forces you to focus on the present. And that comes in really handy in sections like this, where you're asked to put yourself in danger. That was not a deliberate death to show you what was going on. I think you all know what danger is. I talked about this in the first video I did on Limbo, the kind of overview of puzzle platformer design. But Limbo quite often asks you to do this thing where in order to progress you actually have to put yourself in danger. And this is one of those sections. Fairly long section here. Where you're given plenty of time to have a look, see what you think might happen. Kind of plan your route. Especially after the first attempt or two when you die after finding out what's going to go on. But then when you're ready for it, you just gotta start the flood. And then there's no stopping till you're safe. Limbo's really good at checkpointing things, so that if I died now, I would start just at this second section of flooding. It's very, for a game that kills you a lot, it is very forgiving, which I think is kind of essential. I think with the amount of times you die in this game, if the game didn't give you that. Wasn't designed around this quick death trial and error system, a lot of players would get frustrated very early on. So let's look a little bit more at setup and at clues. We have recently found out that these lights might not necessarily just be there for atmosphere, they do have a second use to them. And while I don't think that one there's going to be used for anything, it's suddenly what was previously light has previously been used in this game as a sort of reward, sort of moment of safety. And arguably this here, you escape from the flooding, you survive that, and you're given a nice warm glow just for a second, just to mark the move on to an area of rough sanctuary. But at the same time, we now know that light is an instrumental mechanic in the new brainworm feature. And so there is an element of threat for the near future now that I've seen that light. What was once definite safety now has a little bit of risk to it. Now I'm going to get this puzzle right first time. But you have no idea how long it spent me to work out how I was supposed to do this first time I played this game. For a second then I thought I wasn't going to make the jump. Here we go. Just in case you didn't notice the little white things on the floor, it does throw a little sound effect as you walk over them. It doesn't cut right to the front, it is still a kind of background, subtle noise. But it's just there to let the player know what's about to happen. Especially as we've got this thick shaft of light, which is very visible because the boy nearly fades to obscurity as he runs through it. And now we know what's going to happen. Now we see the real threat. There's a couple of interesting things going on here. First of all, this is the second time we've had this puzzle, and the first one, fairly simple. Most players would be able to solve it, even if they hadn't seen the clues. They'd be able to solve it on at least their second attempt. First attempt, there's a possibility that you would not jump off the barrel at the right time. You'd end up falling off a cliff, dying. Second time through though, you're going to have a good idea of what you're supposed to be doing. This section, much more complicated. Many more chances for the player to accidentally kill themselves. even starting here, you'll notice the worm chamber? The worm pod? Let's go with worm pod. The pod is swaying slightly, so if I time this wrong, it will fall on me before I've had a chance to grab the barrel, and there's nothing I can do here. The crate even. Just fall to my death. But if I time it right and I wait for the swing to go so it's facing the other way, I can get in there and drag this back a little bit. And now prepare myself. Again, I had to do that, there was nothing else I could have done. But it gave me the time to prepare myself and plan what might actually happen. So again, I can go up, I can go down, I can go right, I just cannot go left. Sounds have got slightly more echoey with this thing in my head, and the camera's doing this wonderful, slightly askew sway. Just to add to... Oh, did not mean to jump then, I pressed the wrong button. I was pressing up and I pressed left at the same time. Should have been one or the other. So the slight change of the camera again adds to your sense that something's really not right about what's going on with your character. And the rising floodwater, again from a section that we've just done, so it's now two recent threats combined. Adds a time factor to what's going on here. And at this point, Limbo does something brilliant. It makes you wait. I really appreciate a film or a game, or pretty much a film or a game, that has the balls to not do anything. I always get the sense in those situations that the director really trusts the audience, trusts that they're gonna be able to appreciate what's going on, to be able to handle it. They're not. It's not like they're filling the screen with things to keep the player interested. They trust in their work, and they trust that the audience is smart enough to be invested in their work. And that pipe at the top there, you can't see from over here. This is something you really have to look for. I can't remember if this is one that I found myself. I'd like to think it is, but there's a good chance that I looked in a guide for this one on my first playthrough. The pipe standing right above me at the moment, you can just see something looking out of it. And this rope, quite well hidden behind this foreground thing, might not be something you'd notice. But all of this ties back to things that have happened recently. We've had the storm section, which taught us that pipes can be lowered. All of which was enough for us to find that achievement there. For my third playthrough of this game, every single time I think I've jumped over to the left here just to see what's going on, even though there is nothing to be found here. The rain has taken on a very different sound to what it was before though. It sounds like it's hitting a much harder surface here. I didn't think I was going to make that jump either. Honestly, I'm not sure how I feel about that design. There's been a few times now where I've clung on at the last minute to jumps that I don't think I should have been able to make. And on one hand, that adds to this feeling of constant danger, where even a jump that you're safe, you still feel for a second like you haven't made it and you're about to die. But on the other hand, as a player, particularly in a game like this, where you are able to die a lot, I want to know that I have exact control over my character. There are some wonderful games out there that are designed around having poor control of your character. I think a lot of local multiplayer, a lot of those games are more fun when you're not quite sure how to control things. Games like Gang Beasts, Star Wall, great multiplayer games. But in a game like this, I want to know that I'm controlling my character exactly. And now suddenly we're on rooftops. I think we're going to get through this section and then call it a day, just because I want to talk very briefly about what's happening here. So, up until this point, we've been going through, started off in a wilderness, then we went through this sort of factory area, and now we see this broken, run-down hotel sign. And every time I play through this game, I feel like this marks the point for me where the game gets slightly less enjoyable. And one thing I really want to look at in the next episode is why that might be. What is it that's changed about after this point to everything that's happened before? And one theory I have that I kind of want to test in the next video, it's actually related to what's about to happen here, where from now on a lot of the puzzles seem much more about timing than about threat management, for want of a better term. I'm not really sure. I'm going to say there's still things standing up here which I feel like is a mark. Gives you a good place to work from. So let's go with, as soon as the light comes on, I'm going to start running now. We're going to jump here. So yeah, that was once again, that gave you a good sense of what you were supposed to do. It's very subtle, this chimney in the distance, I guess it is. It just shows you where to stand. As soon as the hotel lights up, you can start running, you jump while it's still lit up, and you make it to safety. So I think we're going to call it a day for this episode. It's been a little bit shorter than the last one, but I feel it's been a little bit more focused as well, looking at a very specific part of the design of this game. The way it sets up puzzles. We saw it introduce a few different mechanics and then tie them all together in one quite nice, quite fast-paced section with the flooding and the worm all together. And like I say, from here on out, I always feel like the game changes slightly. Still a very enjoyable game all the way through, but I don't know if that's what makes me feel like this hotel sign is a marker for when the game starts to lose its luster for me. So that's something I'm really going to be focusing on in the next episode. What is different about after this moment to what came before? So thanks for watching, and I hope you come back for next time.